Greetings and salutations to our fine podcast audience. Welcome to 3 Peas in a Pod, episode 289.
We made it.
And I got that one right.
You did.
Last week was a disaster.
I don't know about disaster. We made it through.
The intro was a disaster. The rest of the podcast, y'all saved it.
Good
job,
job.
guys.
I don't know about
You
that.
saved me from the bad intro.
Yeah, the bad
That's all
intro.
right.
But hey, but at least I got to practice on that one. I goofed it up on
There you go.
288.
There you go.
289 went a little better. So we're back. We're back 2 weeks in a row.
We are.
We're pleasing the audience.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get as regular as we can. But we do other things for a living as well than just doing.
We don't do this for a living.
No. Thank
this,
Lord.
don't pay any bills. We're not sponsored.
Yeah.
You can ring the bell all you want to. It doesn't help us.
Not a thing. Not a thing. Well, we try to come at this about every week, but sometimes we go off a couple of weeks.
Uh-huh.
You know, I told the guys, I said we should just call this a fortnightly
A fortnightly.
podcast.
Yeah.
None of us are.
Do y'all know what fortnightly means?
I know what Fortnite the video game is.
Ah,
So I figured that's what you meant.
No.
Or
Does that have anything to do with the video game?
I know.
I don't think so. What is the origin of the game Fortnite? What's the
I don't
name?
even
Is
know.
it something in the game?
I don't know.
I don't know. I never
Well,
played.
I figured
Fortnite-
Charlie had maybe played
Every
Fortnite.
third grader I know though plays it.
They do.
Charlie's played it as well. I knew it's been
Well,
around for a while.
For our British friends, they
Yeah.
use that word to say every 2 weeks.
Every
Every 2
weeks.
weeks.
Or a fortnight is
It's
14
actually
days.
15 days.
Is it 15?
It's
Yes.
15. It's half a month.
Half a month.
We call it 2
Except when you're February. And then it's every 2 weeks
Uh-huh.
and half a month.
That's right. But we come to the people about every week unless we just don't have one.
Do we have an answer on the Fortnite question?
The video game becomes from the fact that you are building forts
Ah.
to survive through the night.
So it has
it's-
nothing to do with time.
Well, there was a no.
Okay. Thanks for that, Charlie.
There we go.
He's our
But it's spelled like the other Fortnite.
Is it?
It's not.
FORT
Yeah, it
NIT.
Yes.
yeah,
You should
night's
che-
not even spelled right.
You should check the other and make sure it's spelled that way.
I think it is.
Like a fortnight, like 2 weeks
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
NIGHT. Yeah.
That's what I
course it
thought.
Ah.
Yeah,
There you
that's
go.
right. Our British friends have it right. Okay. Enough of that.
Yeah.
That's not what we came here to talk about. We are here today because Nathan has been scouring Reddit again.
Yeah, about 30 minutes ago. If you
All
can
that
scour
time.
for about 5 minutes, I did
30
that.
minutes is a long time to scour.
No, I mean I did it 30
Oh, you
minutes
30
ago,
minutes
just
ago.
before we started filming the other
So
one.
you spent about that
I
much
was
time.
it was the number one whatever they call it upvoted. I think upvoted.
Ooh.
Yeah, Charlie's shaking his head.
Okay.
Upvoted question. So I thought that
So you
might
got a
be-
question.
Upvoted question just in general?
on the I think it's Ask a Pastor subreddit.
Ah.
Or maybe this was on Ask a Christian. They have those as well. So occasionally I'll go on there to go, are there any interesting questions that we could, because
Okay.
of our frequent listener, Tatiana, who sent a question about Reddit. We didn't do what she had originally suggested, but I did think that's a good idea to occasionally
All
see
right.
what people on Reddit are talking about.
Well, hit us with the Reddit question then there, Nathan.
So the question, I think the title of the question, and there was longer stuff in the middle, but I think the title sums up most of it, which is, how can God expect us to worship him for eternity in heaven
Mhm.
if he sends family members to hell? So if you have an unbelieving spouse or an unbelieving
Yeah.
mother or whatever, and when you get to
What
heaven,
if it's a family member you thought also should go?
That's right.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Somebody you really went crazy about.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then you and God agree on that one?
That's right.
Good going, God.
Yeah. So
That's bad. I
that's the
shouldn't have
question
said
is,
that.
but I've heard these similar questions
Yeah, me
of people. I think we've answered a question on here before of like,
Mhm.
how could we have joy in heaven if we know
Mhm.
that somebody that we love is in hell or
Yeah.
something along those lines? So I thought that's a good question, and I thought might be a good realm of discussion for us
Mm.
on what do we think that's going to be like.
I'm not sure I agree with part of the premise of that question.
Sure.
And I would take issue with the phrase, a God who sends people to hell.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Not
think
so-
they are assuming in that question that God sends people to hell.
whatever hell is.
That's right.
Yeah.
I could go into that because the word we translate hell does not mean what most people
No.
think it means.
Sure. In the same way that our ideas of what heaven is going to be like.
That's
Exactly.
correct.
That's
is
right.
going to look like that.
Mo-
but
I think, but people who ask that question usually mean hell is this place of eternal conscious torment
Mm-hmm.
that people go to who do not believe in Jesus, accept him, whatever phrase you use to indicate conversion.
Mm-hmm.
So not sure I'm 100% on board with all of that stuff either.
So what are we talking about then when we talk about God
Well,
sending
you're
people to hell?
inevitably talking about the character of God. If God is the one
That's it.
that is sending,
Mm-hmm.
or if God, it's always interesting. Most people assume I'm going to do enough to earn heaven,
Mm.
but there isn't anything except God that decides on hell,
Mm.
which doesn't really make sense logically.
Sure.
If I am doing something
Yeah.
to get to heaven,
Yeah. I just heard there's a guy who's getting real popular on all the podcasts. He's a Christian apologist. His name's Wes Huff. Y'all probably seen him, but he's hitting all the big podcasts right now. He's been on Joe Rogan and he's, all the big ones. And I heard one of the guys ask him, he says, so do you think I'm going to hell? And Wes looks right back at him and goes, yes, but all of us are. And then he explains that. He says, and he touches on that point you just made of, if you're thinking in terms of where are we all by our own nature headed towards, yes, we are headed toward a destructive end.
Yeah.
That's the bent of being a sinful human being.
Correct.
yeah, it's tough. What is tough to measure up with that thought is we believe that there is a God who came in the form of Jesus, who came is Jesus. Jesus is God,
Yes.
comes to earth, gives up his very life
Mm.
for the sin of all humanity.
Mhm.
So God has paid the price for everyone.
Mhm.
And so now you have to measure up that God that would go to those lengths also is just going to hurl people into hell.
Right.
Those seem to be not match up.
Mhm.
So maybe you either have to say one part of that I've heard is wrong, or both parts are wrong,
Mhm.
and then you got to choose, or maybe the part of what we know Jesus did, or what Christians believe he did, does reveal something about the character of God, and that God, when he talks about himself all throughout the Bible and describes himself as a God who's gracious, yes, he holds people accountable for their sins,
Mhm.
and that most people believe our choices have something to do with these kind of things, that God honors humanity,
Mhm.
and that all of that leads to what happens in eternity. Now, what exactly happens in eternity, as Jason said, there are all kind of thoughts about what happens on I guess the easiest way to say it is the negative side of eternity,
Mhm.
the non-heaven side of eternity.
Mhm.
That's not as clear-cut as most people would lead you to believe either.
Yeah.
So I personally don't believe God sends anybody to hell.
Mhm.
That's been my stance from reading the scriptures. I think everyone who goes to hell will voluntarily go.
Mhm. Mhm.
They
What's
will
the C.S. Lewis phrase? The gates of hell are
Locked from the
lock
inside.
from the inside.
That's right.
I think everybody who winds up in hell will walk past many, many opportunities to not go, and they will voluntarily continue to walk that way. And I believe for those of us that are in heaven, and then I think we will know. I think we'll know. Maybe we'll know that people chose that.
Mhm.
That we will be so overwhelmed by the grace of God and how good God is, and that we will see all of the picture of what humanity has done and how good God has been through all of that, redeeming things we thought were totally lost that he will redeem. That worship will be so natural, we won't have to be concerned about it. It will come to us as naturally as the first time you see your child born.
Yes.
The
Yeah, I think
overwhelming feeling that you have.
that's another assumption that I hear in that question that I think a lot of us get goofed up on too. Me too, is that we see worship in heaven as the way we define it right now.
Mhm.
And usually most people, Christians at least, when they talk about worship, they think of, I go to a place, I stand and I sing to God, and I have these emotional feelings that lend myself towards feeling close to him.
Mm-hmm.
that's a really shallow, short-sighted view of worship.
Right.
Because there's all kinds of stuff that we have to fight, get past, ignore even in this life in order to achieve that kind of thing, which I'm not even sure is exactly worship. Worship is more of ascribing ultimate value to that which is of ultimate value.
That's right.
Right.
And placing it in front of me in that way. And I think, like what Ed was saying, when we come into the next era, the next life that we will exist for eternity in, I think we will see all of that for what it is, and it won't be something that I have to feel or muster up. It will just be.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's what I think you were saying.
That's right.
Is God will be all in all.
It will be evident to us.
Yes.
Our reaction will be automatic
Yeah.
and not like we're forced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The light that God is, which is in all things and through all things, will be within us, and we will be in that space with Him. And see, the words that I'm even using are falling short,
Mhm.
but it will be the air we breathe, the ground we stand on. It will be the light that lights everything. It will be reality for us. And so worship won't be something that I have to work at or think about or ascribe to. It
Yeah.
just will be the state that I'm in.
That's right.
And I will see things the way He does. You know, Paul even talks about, I see things dimly, like through a glass that's
Right.
really shadowy, or whatever you call it, whatever words that
Through a
we want
glass
to use.
darkly.
Glass darkly, that's the words he uses. It's like I don't see it clearly. Then I will see as if I am face to face, and it will be self-evident.
Yeah.
And I won't have to push past negative feelings or anything like that. And so I can't even describe what that'll feel like. I just know that's the way it'll be.
Well, I would assume by the nature of what is currently happening around the throne of God, where there is both, we know, at least from the scriptures, that the angels are surrounding him, that anytime someone enters into the throne of God in some kind of, vision from God or some kind of whatever in the scriptures, there are angels constantly praising him, that there are saints around the throne of God, but that we also know the saints are crying out in the book of Revelation, both praises to the Lamb and also woes about what's happening on earth.
Yeah.
That they're able to hold both of those things in tension. That they are able to see somehow in God's goodness, both his power to do something about, because in the book of Revelation, they're crying out, how long until you finally put an end to all the suffering on earth?
Mhm.
They're able to see both the goodness of God's power to end the suffering and also his restraint to not end the suffering yet. There is something in that. And so I think it is possible, as we've already said, that I will know that there are people who aren't in eternity with God, but I will know that in such a way that God himself, who is love, I will see that as love.
Yeah.
Right now, there are times where when you think about it and I think about it, we go, I don't know if that's that loving, which then I have to go, do I think I'm more loving than God?
Yeah.
Do I think I'm more loving than God in this situation? And so when I think about the question of, as we've already talked about, I would agree, God's not sending in the sense of God walks up and goes, you, not you, in the sense of I'm making a choice on, I'm pushing a person away. I would say, yeah, that's not the way it works. The verses I would think about from the scriptures that kind of form what my ideas, once again, that I have to hold loosely, because as we've said, there's not a picture.
Mhm.
There are word pictures that are given that Jesus uses, metaphors Jesus uses, and the writers of the New Testament use to give us an idea. But that there does seem to be, Jesus talks about that there's a place that has been created for, the way he says is Satan and his angels, and that there will be people who have chosen that route in life, which we don't like to imagine that of ourselves.
Or that anybody could choose it.
Sure. But he goes, that is where they will spend eternity. Now, does that mean, as we've already said, does that mean that some kind of like God is the one? Because I hear this all the time, like God's tormenting the people, or that it's an eternal that the devil is the one tormenting the people, because then there seems to be some idea that the devil's going to be gotten rid of at the end of all things, that he's going to be destroyed. Does it, when it talks about being led to destruction, does that mean some kind of like actual destruction, what's kind of called annihilationism, that the whole thing is just kind of wiped out? What does that look like? I don't know. And I have no idea.
Nobody knows.
But there seems to be some picture that we're given that there is some kind of hell. And that's, I know that word brings different pictures for other people, but that's the only way I know. There is some end for people who would say, I don't want Jesus in this life. But what we know on the other end is that the book of it's 2 Peter, I think, that then says, God is so good. He's not slow in bringing it into things, because his desire is that all people would avoid destruction, is the way he says it, that this would not be where people end up. And so we know that's true too, that God's heart is, God is not going, I'm sending you because I don't want you. His desire is that you would choose him. But because he loves you so much, and this is the final quote I'll use for this, is when Dallas Willard was asked, what is hell? He would say, hell is the best God can do for some people. Mm-hmm. Which I think, as in many Dallas things, you just need to sit with sometimes, because I think there's an immense amount of truth in that, which is...
Well, I put it like this, and this is the best I can put it in terms. Parenting has helped me a lot in understanding and walking with parents in really tough situations. I have been with parents who have addicted children, and you do everything you can, and you pay for 8 rehabs, and you set them up 10 times to try, and you pour out, and you pour out, and you pour out. And finally, the best thing you can do is to say, hey, I'm gonna have to turn you over to what you're choosing.
Yeah.
It's the best I can do for you. And it breaks the heart of the parent.
Yeah.
But it's because they love the person so much, they can continue to support that lifestyle. And even when we talk about who torments people in hell, again, this is just, and this may have nothing to do with it, but it's what I have seen, and I've heard theologians say it, and I now see it in a different light, that sin is its own punishment.
Yes, it is.
And that I've watched enough people who, and again, if we just talk about substance abuse or pornography abuse, well, that's a substance. Any kind of thing that I do where I live the way I want to live that is against what is best for a human being and the way to live, over time, that becomes its own kind of judgment. And it does destroy people. I've seen people that are 30 years old and their body looks like they're 70. And I've watched people who are 70 and have been unloving to everybody who loved them, who have been closed off to all of humanity except what they wanted. And by the end of their life, they're very small, shallow. Even if their stature is large, they're tiny little people. They're like shriveled up little. It becomes its own kind of thing. And that may, in fact, not be what hell is, but I imagine very small souls. And nobody will, the reason it becomes tormenting, I think, is because there's nobody to help anybody, because everybody there is only for themselves.
Yeah.
They have chosen consciously again and again to be for me. And it becomes an incredibly dark place. That's what I think.
Yeah,
but
that's what I would say too. I would say that it is the way that it seems to be when you follow what is described as the wrath of God throughout the scriptures is God turning people over to their own desires.
Yep.
You see this in Romans 1. You see it certainly in even things like the flood. When you read those things, kind of with the proper understanding, what this is that God is holding back constant in his goodness. And, I was thinking about this, even just the situation. We see this in our world of people who are sinning or living in destructive ways, and we would all say, it just seems like they're getting away with everything. They're doing bad stuff and no consequences are coming. But what everyone knows is anyone who lives in a destructive way long enough, the consequences are coming. And that sometimes God in his goodness allows us to turn before all the consequences get on top of us. But sometimes in his goodness, he goes, if the only way to have you turn back is for me to, and this is the language kind of the flood, is that he's holding back the chaos waters. And then he decides, because of this, I'm not going to hold it back. It's not that God necessarily is going, I'm coming in to take all this life. It's, I'm going to allow what sin wants to do to itself.
Yeah.
And that I will allow this, and that what it seems like when you hear even about in terms of hell, there's language in the scriptures around the wrath of God with that. It's not God being so angry and full of contempt towards humanity that he goes, I'm going to, and I don't even know, I'll be punitive towards you on this. It's this idea of if what you have wanted, and we see this with the nation of Israel throughout the Old Testament, when they go to worship other gods, God goes, if you want the foreign gods, then the foreign gods can have you, because this is what they do.
Yeah.
This is what they lead to. These nations will come in, they will destroy you. And that's the way that I see what hell is that God is not sending. God's saying, and that's how I take Dallas's point about hell is the best God can do for some people, is to say, if what you really want is yourself and not me, because the unloving choice would be to force someone. I had a teenager years ago in a group just say to me, she was just very broken up about it, which I get, because she had this picture. She said, if being with God is the best thing, why doesn't he just make everyone be with him? And I said, imagine for a moment that when my daughter was 18, she wanted to move out and go be with a guy who I knew was terrible. He was going to treat her terrible. And so my option was, I know living with me is better, so I'm going to kidnap you.
Yeah,
and every time
in a cage.
and every time you try to leave the house to go be with him, I'm going to lock the door. And she said, well, eventually she'll see it. And I said, do you think that's true? I said, do you know anyone in your life who has, who because of my, and I said, and it's because of my actions. She knows me forcing you into a room and locking the door and saying, you can't leave because that's what's best for you. That is an unloving behavior. She then begins to resent me because of it and thinks this guy's the only choice. Whereas if I instead say, I beg of you, don't go with this guy.
Yeah.
This guy he will ruin your life. Do not go.
That's why Jesus told the story of the prodigal son. That is that story.
Yes.
He let him go
Yes.
so that he would come back.
You know what I found really interesting about that too? Today on the treadmill, I'm listening to a podcast of people who aren't believers. They talk about movies, and someone was talking about how he grew up in an evangelical household, and he said, every time everyone says, oh, the prodigal son is returned, he says, people are using that term incorrectly. And he was right. He was saying what they basically mean is that person left and they came back. He goes, prodigal means they're reckless, they're wasteful, all that kind of stuff. So he was good. So then he tells the story of the prodigal son in, pretty accurate terms. His slant on it was not exactly right. But someone at the end of it goes, so the older son, so the point of this story is that you shouldn't be on good behavior, that bad behavior is rejoiced over because the older son did all the right stuff and he doesn't get a party and he blah, blah, blah. And they're having this, and I'm just listening to these modern, very well-educated people wrestle with the story of the prodigal son in the ways that we're just talking about here of there does seem to be this sense of there's an unfairness to this.
Well,
Right.
they also
Ain't nothing unfair, because here's what we know. Jesus didn't tell this part of the story, but we know there's an implied part of the story. And the implied part is that older brother could have done the exact same thing if he wanted
Well,
to.
That's
and,
right.
And could go tomorrow.
and Jesus being the master teacher, when the younger son asked for the estate, the father divides the estate among
He gives
both.
both
Both of them.
The father takes the total loss.
Yes, he
He
does.
no longer owns anything.
Yep.
That's right.
He's given up everything in the estate,
Yeah.
and he gave it to the older and to the younger. And when the older resents, he says to him, everything I have
Everything I have
has
is yours.
always been
Yeah,
yours.
you've
It's
already had it.
always been yours. You have everything. Isn't it right that we rejoice that your younger
Yep.
brother, who now has nothing,
That's right.
he now has nothing.
That's right. And if the older brother did go do what his brother,
He would have gotten the same.
he would have
thing.
gotten the same treatment.
That's exactly
So
right.
it is not fair.
That's right.
It is not. I mean,
yeah, and who it is unfair to is the father in the story.
Yes.
And that's the part that's
The
missed
father
out of it.
paid the cost.
The
He
father
did.
pays everything, and that's what I was. I'm just kind of smirking as I'm listening to it and
yeah.
going. You've gotten the emotion that was supposed to be caused, which a lot of church people don't even get. We hear the story and we don't get. This is scandalous.
It
This
is.
whole story is intended to make the people in the audience feel what these
That's
guys
why.
felt,
Yeah.
which is that younger guy should be punished.
It's
We
why-
all hear it because we've grown up in church and go, "Thank God for the younger."
Yeah.
But there's a way that story hits, which is that father is more gracious than he should have been.
Right. It's why Tim Keller didn't call it the prodigal son.
Yes.
He calls it
The
the
prodigal.
story of the prodigal God, because if prodigal means reckless,
Yes.
the most reckless person in the story is God.
Yes.
He wagers everything
Yeah, he wastes his grace on this person who
On-
doesn't
on-
deserve it.
on both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He wastes his grace on both kids who do not deserve it.
that's right.
Mhm.
And
And
that's
neither one, only the one who really then went and wasted it appreciates it. The other one still hasn't woken up,
Yes.
which is the point of the story.
yes.
Because Jesus is talking to the Pharisees who don't
Yes.
realize they've always been God's chosen,
Yeah.
and they don't realize it.
And that's what I would say, honestly, at the kind of wrap up the question of how do you worship God? That's how you worship God in that situation, because and this ties in the Wes Huff thing too.
Mhm.
The idea that somehow I deserve
Mhm.
this blessing God would give to me, which is life in eternity with Him.
Mhm.
You know.
Well, and because the judgment seat, the great white throne judgment, we still go through that,
Yeah.
and the benefit of it is there comes a time when judgment is good, and when God and I look at because I'm a ceaseless eternal being in God's great eternal universe.
Mhm.
When He has judgment time with Ed, and he sits and goes, "Hey, remember that?" And I'll go, "Oh." He goes, "Hey, let me show you how that should have been done, because that's going to come up over the next 10,000 years."
Yeah.
And I'll go, "Oh, thank you." It won't be, we all look at that and think that's going to be so painful. It's going to be like walking with your dad and going, "Hey, what I tried to get to happen and it didn't really get through. Let's talk about that now."
That's right.
And we get eternity to
And then I'll praise Him and go,
That's right.
"Oh, thank you. You're right. I can do that. You're
That's
right."
right.
Can't wait. All right. You gonna have us another Reddit question next time?
Yeah, I got us.
You got
another
more?
thing. I got another thing. Yes.
Well, all right. Well, y'all come on back next time and you'll see what that is. Until then, see ya.